Alright, I'm wiring. Ramcharger wiring harness. I'm replacing wires that have nasty, stuff like that. Lock connectors. I found some that I've started using. I did one wire, like this blue one that we got right here, that routes all the way around to the battery. It had the not fusible link, the fused wire link, whatever resistor wire, goofy nonsense, this stuff right here. That is, you're supposed to, if you replace it, cut it to a specific length, and that's the resistance and amp or whatever. Just put a fuse in it. So anyways, one of the things I did, we're not going to be able to see up in that connector, so I'll show you here. Here's the connectors I got. I'm trying these out. They're not exactly the same, but they are working. So I'm going to continue with that, and I'm putting these little boots on there for weather pack connectors, right? So I know it's a square hole, and I'm putting a round peg in a square hole, but hey, it seals it off better than the nothing the factory put on there, right? Put a dab of dielectric grease in it, and it's turning out good. So I just want to show you what I'm going through, and it's a mess right now, but it's one wire at a time. I fixed one wire. I'm fixing that other wire I threw down over there, which is going to be for the charging system and the ignition system distributor. I've already replaced another wire for the, I think I have. I'm brain farting now. What I've already done and what I hadn't done. The ignition system, yes. So this is going to battery, ignition system. Okay, so I need to put another fuse in here for this wire because it was good. Not replacing it, and that's going to run the coil itself. Then I can put a fuse in there for the coil, because those, especially the higher end coils, they can pull a lot of amps. So I don't want, it would actually be too many amps for this wire that I pulled out. It was a 14 gauge. Okay, close up that. You see that little boot in there, so that's sealing that up quite nicely. See the holes, right? None of them, they got nothing. They're just dangling out there. Okay, let's look at something. This right here is the charge wire. Yeah, like the alternator charge wire right there. Comes up and around and hooks into one of these goofy things right there, right? Going through that. And then everything, the entire power of the vehicle goes through this little wire right here. That charges like all that stuff. Let me show you a proper charge wire. Ooh, you can't see anything. Oh, hey, I think you can see. Actually, it's compensating quite well with the Ford truck build there. This is what I'm putting on there, right? Got that off of the Focus. I think Ford Focus, Fusion, something like that. Out of the junkyard. Really good wire. I'll need to, when I get everything ready, I'll cut that end off right there and get it plugged into my charging system. So nice. I think that's 4 gauge is what that is instead of 10 gauge. Okay, I pulled one out and plugged it off, the green one right there. That was the smaller, for like 22 gauge. Look at these buggers right here, 18 to 20, and put a little bit of dielectric grease in there. So I pulled that wire out because I'm not using it. It was all mangled, but this is the amp meter, and I'm not using the amp meter. I'm using the voltmeter on there. Got to be careful because some rigs, like the old 60s ones, they'll actually, the amp meter is all the power goes in through the circuit board and everything, like the old Dodges, 60s Dodges does that, through the cardboard circuit board. They have full amperage going through the whole thing and back and forth and looping through it. So yeah, but anyways, don't throw this stuff away, because you never know when you might need something like this or a reference. You never know. Just put it in a shoebox, mark it, whatever you got to do. All right, look at that mess right there. So what I'm doing is some of these wires wrap around and tie around and all that stuff. So I'm finding those, like this one right here. Trying to do it one-handed. So this was wrapped around all these wires and weaved in and out of it. It doesn't need to do that, so I've unpinned it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and clean that up. And then I'm going to try to get one of them little boots on there and then plug it back in. And then like these wires, these are all the wires going, actually that one as well. These all go from the battery directly to the connector. So I want to make sure nothing's wove in between those. I'll put a little bit of tape on them for now so that they're all bundled up together. Same with like all these headlight harness stuff, and each one of the little circuits I'm going to go through and do that, and that'll help clean up all the spaghetti right there. Then I'll get down to a point to where, okay, what's this wire do? What's this wire do? And I can identify those a lot easier. Okay, little update. I know it don't look better because things aren't in convoluted tubing yet, but I have routed. If we look here, it's not so spaghettified where things are wrapping around each other. I've got a couple right here that I could fix, but not a big deal. These I've tied up. These are for my cruise control, which I'm not going to be using, so I'm just going to get those tucked out of the way. This is my oil sending unit. I've been using a little aftermarket one for where you actually have the oil go up through there. I'm going back to an electrical unit. I'm tired of running that hose and playing with that hose, so I'll be wiring that back up. Let's see what else. Oh, I need to do some function checks. I think this. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. My tape that I put on, that's what it's been doing. My tape is just no stick tape day, so I just went to zip ties. I want to do a function check on this wire because I think it's only hot in crank. And I need to know that for my coil, because when you hook a coil up, it needs to be hot in crank and in run. Now, the reason they did that is, if you look here, this goes directly to turn it around. So this goes directly to battery. This is a solenoid. Whenever it receives signal, it sends signal to the starter solenoid and direct 12 volt to the coil, right? That's because on this vehicle it had a ballast resistor that when the coil's running, it doesn't get a full 12 volts, because if you do that, it overheats. But you need the full 12 volts because when you're cranking, the battery voltage is going to drop because you have a big load on it. So then that gives you, you get like 8, 10 or whatever volts straight to the coil so you can start easier. So I think that's what I got going on right here. I'm going to double check that to make for sure before I wire up my ignition system and start actually tying everything in and getting all this in convoluted tubing. A couple wires I still want to replace eventually, and that's my headlight wire. Yes, this one singular 14 gauge wire right here is what runs all the headlights. That's not quite, that's good enough for one headlight on bright. So anyways, a couple things there. I also have the main charge wire. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with it. If we look, this is the power in right here. This is the charge wire. I was going to use that to run fans, but given this is the main power in, that's powering everything else going there. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I got to figure that out, tuck it, do something with it. Okay, a little bit of, this is a wiring update. So I have the coil wired. I still need to tighten my wires down. The blower motor, I have that ran up all the way around to there. So it's ready for, pretty much ready for the convoluted tubing. This right here is my oil sending unit, electric. I don't have one of those yet, so I can't like finish this and terminate it and trim it down. But you can see how we're going, and of course my tape. I think I need a new roll because this stuff just ain't sticking. Got my little baby zip ties, kind of tying it up and everywhere. And I'll figure out something for ring terminals or whatever to hold that in once I get the convoluted tubing all around that. But I'll need to trim those zip ties. And this side's pretty much done. Let's look over here on the other side. Still a lot of just routing work to do over here. So looking a lot better. This is all the lighting stuff, which I haven't even messed with yet, but this is pretty much all the bundle that goes over there. That one and this one right here. This is the wiper motor, and like what we saw all the way over there, the blower motor stuff right there. And then this is all my ignition system and sensors. So we got the temp sending unit electrical, and then the oil one right there. So those will be going into the factory locations for now, and I can always run those to the gauges I want to run, which is going with electrical oil gauge and electrical water gauge eventually. But this will get us up and running and have gauges. So this is my inputs, and then this is the starting charging system, ignition system. I'm running the ignition coil off this yellow wire right here, which is a 14 gauge, which should be good for about 7.5 amps. And then this is the main power in right here for that. I'm going to put a fuse on that, and this will operate the this is the signal wire, right? So this will operate the starter solenoid. So this solenoid here, starter solenoid, and the coil, and then in run, that's a hot. Going directly from there to there is a hot, right? So that'll run the coil, and I got my relay hooked up for the coil over there as well. That way the trigger is off start and run, not just running it straight off the battery all the time, right? So that takes the load off that one wire, because normally it would be this one wire right here would run the the charging and ignition system would run off this one wire right here. I think I said that right. Allergies are killing me. So the charging and ignition system, coil, distributor, the your ignition control module, all that would be ran off that one singular wire. So anyways, coils can pull a lot of power. They put ballast resistors in them, but still, that's the coil kind of needs its own little circuit there. It's a pretty high amp draw, especially if you do a hot rod one. So I have some wires right here. This is for the cruise control. I may hook it up someday. Not looking at doing that, because that takes a lever in here to control the throttle and all that, and I had enough trouble getting that thing set up. I had to try to add cruise control to it, right? That's a whole nother level of fabricating that's just not required now. So I'll need to get my starter hooked up, that and the starter energizer wire, and that'll help kind of bundle this up, route all of this stuff here. There's some wires I want to replace eventually. That's the headlight wire and the reverse light wires. I'll have to pull that out and repin those and rewire that. I definitely want to beef up that headlight wire, but that's for another day. I'm trying to get it going here. So headlights irrelevant to it starting, right? So that's where I'm at right there. Looking better, but still a long way. This is the stuff that, this is the part right here that takes a lot of time, and there's just not a lot of visual results with it until the last like 5 or 10%, and then everything looks pretty. It's just one of those jobs. It's time consuming to do the wires, crimping each one of them, making sure they're good, getting the right connector, the right length. It just takes time to do it one wire at a time, and I'm rewiring and designing my own system as well, because I'm not using the factory setup that they have there, so that takes even more time to do that. But it's going to be pretty good whenever I get it all done. Okay, I just hooked up a battery to this just to check everything out. The starter does work. Nothing caught on fire, nothing smoked, but it's also pretty much a dead battery. So I might not have enough amperage to burn any wires or anything. Let's take a closer look. Okay, there we are. I still got my drill from priming. I did put oil in there. Spark plug wires they're on there, right? Still got some stuff to do over here, but at least I know kind of the positions. I didn't do anything with that right there just because it's working. Again, I want to do something different on it, but I want to hear this thing fire up. That is how pretty and ugly that is, has nothing to do with it. What does have a lot to do with it is getting that battery or another battery in here and put some gas in there and see if I can hear a poof, poof, poof.